Hi, everybody. Ali Duzette here with Naomi Fox Reyna of Elixology.com. She teaches light-filled astrology, which is basically like God-centered astrology that is very safe for practicing Christians as ourselves. People who want to study the stars from a specifically God-centered perspective that honors our Bible focus and our understanding of God and Jesus as the centers of the universe and its function. And today we wanted to talk about why it is just completely unnecessary to be afraid of this eclipse. Okay, what do you have to say, Naomi? Let's hear
Well,
it.
first, beautiful introduction. Thank you so much. And first of all, just because if you look at what is the most consistent commandment in the Bible, it is to be not afraid. Don't fear, fear not. Like some version of you don't need to worry. You don't need to be afraid. Like let your worries go. I believe, from what I understand, there are 365 references in the Bible to fear not, one for every day of the year.
I think I've read
So it
that.
is a very repeated, like admonition, encouragement, commandment, however you want to look at it. So I take that pretty literally and seriously, where I love the question that I ask myself all the time, what is right about this that I'm not seeing? So if you're looking at a situation and it looks like just everything is chaos, everything is terrible, everything is hopeless or whatever, I love, love, love just like that default infusion of, okay, what's right about this that I'm not seeing? Because we've been told so many times not to fear, we can have absolute confidence that there is a reason not to fear. Like not just the general, like, just be okay with this crazy thing that's happening in front of you, but like really truly there is logical practical reasons that God has given us, and if we seek him and if we ask to know the mysteries of God, we can know why we don't need to be afraid. And I feel like eclipses can stir up so much fear in people. I've definitely seen it in my connections and people sending me messages, and I know you've been getting it a ton too, and you do a beautiful job of talking about the signs and symbols of all of these things without the infusion of fear. But I just think that it's worth its whole own moment of being like, we really, really don't need to be afraid, and like, here's why type of a thing. So those are my first intro thoughts on the matter.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, I think with every eclipse, but especially with the ones that are like very, very significant, there can be a lot of just drama around it, which like in all fairness, this upcoming eclipse is actually a dramatic eclipse. Like people are going to see it all across America. People are going to see it. It's this double matcher with the one that happened in 2017. It is kind of a dramatic eclipse, but do we need to lose our minds? Do we need to go spend $2 million on an underground bunker? Like, is this is that what we're supposed to get out of this? I really just don't think that that is the case. I've been
I want
getting
to see that bunker, a
messages.
$2 million bunker. I'm kind of like having a moment with that.
Doesn't it sound exciting? There's a Mr. Beast video where they go to an underground bunker. Is like pretty good. My kids all had me watch it. But anyway,
I super love this so much. Well, and I feel like this would be good to pull up the chart of the eclipse because we have all of this fabulous Aries energy, which I feel like I have a bit of a unique perspective on Aries energy. Like I actually love it. It's some of my most favorite. Like I do have favorites. They're all amazing, they're all wonderful, but personally I love me some Aries energy. And on the whole, Aries is in like the bottom three, like most hated energies of the zodiac. And the reasons for it, I think, are because we, especially as kind of conservative cultures, have kind of divorced ourselves from anger and intensity and passion and all of these things. And this upcoming eclipse on April 8th is filled with that. And so I can see how some people can feel the drama and the fear and all of that. But I'd love to chat about why all of that Aries energy all up in there is actually amazing and wonderful.
well, let me have it. Come on, let's hear
So we
it.
have the sun and the moon are going to be conjunct in Aries at the moment of the eclipse. It like they match up, and that's what makes a new moon. Every single month we have a new moon. This one happens to be really close to the nodal path. They're only 4 degrees apart, which is why it's an eclipse. If it's within 16 degrees, if the full moon or the new moon is within 16 degrees of the north or south node, That's what makes an eclipse. That's how they happen. That's because the alignment of the earth and the sun and everything is of such that it will actually block it out partially or totally. And we know that this one is a total solar eclipse because it is so close. And so we have the sun and the moon and the north node all in Aries. So let's talk about what Aries is anyway before we even start unpacking all the other things that are there. So Aries energy is the beginning of the zodiac. It's the breath of new life. They're the children of the zodiac. It's a very young energy. Like imagine like a 2-year-old running around buck naked in the sprinklers, just like enjoying how the water in the sun feels on their body, like just innocence and joy and what else can my body do and how does this feel and what happens when I do that. It's a very like reactionary cause effect, joy filled, just I think it's even an innocent energy a little bit, even though we think of Aries, we're like, no, they're hotheads, like they're just constantly yelling and screaming. Well, sometimes that's how a toddler looks too. So and to me, I'm a Sagittarius, so I love Aries energy because it fires me up. I just feel really like I'm never too much with an Aries, which I super love. And I have a little bit of a platform that I get on a lot about fire energy in women, specifically if you grew up in a conservative home, conservative culture, any of that. Yes.
Oh, Sagittarius is also fire energy. That's why she said that.
Yes.
Sagittarius and Aries are both fire signs, along
Yes.
with Leo, the third fire sign. But okay,
Yes.
back to you.
Yes. So Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius energy, specifically in women, and specifically if it's in the sun or the moon sign, I see all the time where, you know, somebody will be a Leo, or she'll have a Leo moon, or an Aries, have an Aries moon. Those are even stronger than the Sagittarius. And they'll be like, I just don't resonate with astrology. It just doesn't fit me. And as we get into it, it's that we've divorced ourselves from our ability to have all the spectrum of the fire energy, not just the lovely sides, not just the acceptable, but the parts that seem unacceptable in cultures that say women should be lovely and sweet and delicate and never da 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 da. Like I'm all for that. Like I love your book, Magnetic Femininity. I think it's brilliant, and I think everybody should go read it. And let it push your buttons and let it do all of those things and finish it, right? Because it's so good. And I feel like I'm at really good peace with my femininity. And as a fire sign woman, fire in astrology is a masculine energy. And so when we get to confront whether we are a fire sign or we're not, this eclipse is saying, hey, we're going to confront this masculine polarity in a really, really big way. We're going to look at this because we get to make peace with our anger and our passion and our drive, and all of that is being called out. So back to the screenshot of the chart, but all this Aries energy, we're going the outward and the inward, the sun and the moon are both in Aries. So we're having all of that passion and that excitement and invigoration, which this is an invitation for you individually, for everybody watching this, listening to this, to really sit with and be like, how do I feel about my passion? How do I feel about my anger? Is there any anger that does need to come up and out? Is there anything that needs to be expressed? Now, I'm obviously not talking about violence or harming another person, but anger can be expressed. Ali has some amazing tools on how to express and process through anger. And all of that is so, so important. But then if you also just look at what else we have here. So it's not just that we have a whole bunch, it's that we have a whole bunch of significant ones. Like we've got Hygeia is kind of leading out. That's a much lesser known asteroid that is really important, but doesn't carry nearly as much weight as Venus and Chiron and Mercury are the other things that are there. All of those are significant. They're physical objects in the sky, which the mathematical points still really have an impact, but I always kind of am weighing out like how many points does this thing get? Like sun and moon, lots of points. Hygeia definitely still gets points, but it's a smaller influence. And so a lot of you watching this may have never even heard of Hygeia, and that's totally fine. But if we look at all of these significant clusters, this is a divine orchestration of all of these energies being here at the same time. This is not happenstance. This happens a lot. It's pretty common that Mercury and Venus would be in the same sign as the sun. Like that happens. That's not super infrequent. But to have the sun, moon, Mercury, Venus, that's most of the core of the personal planets and luminaries, and all clustered around Chiron. Like what? Like Super, super, super big deal. So this is going to be a highly confrontational, self-confrontational, internally confrontational energy, which for some of you, you're like, I hate confrontation. I would literally do anything to avoid it. Guess what? You get to not be afraid. And I love the term self-confronting that we get from Dr. Jennifer Finlayson Fife. Absolutely love her talk and the way that she talks about relationships within and with relationships with our significant other. And she talks about we need to be willing to self-confront. We need to be willing to say, like, am I living in a way that is in alignment with the things that I ultimately want? Like, I love the concept of the laws of the universe. Like, if you want a blessing, if you want something good in your life, you have to obey the laws that govern that thing. You can't yell and scream at your spouse or cheat on your spouse and have a good marriage. You can't. Like, that violates the laws of marriage. You can't talk mean to yourself and beat yourself up all the time and be in alignment and have self-love and be grounded and have peace in your body. Like, these things violate the natural laws that govern what you want. And so that's, to me, what self-confronting is it's getting honest with yourself and being like, am I really doing the things, like, if this is what I want, are the actions I'm doing going to lead me there? If they're not, then you make adjustments. And it's not, there's no, this doesn't mean you need to be shame-filled. It doesn't mean that you need to be to wound yourself in the process or that you even did anything wrong. It's just, oh, when you know better, you do better. And so if we never self-confront, and I feel like this Aries new moon eclipse is, and with Chiron all up in there, is the essence of self-confrontation. And when we can go in willingly, instead of being like, no, 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 I'm not doing anything wrong. I don't need to look at this. This is especially why I think it's calling us to repentance, is this very strong, clear message of, are you doing the things that you're supposed to? And if not, it could kind of be really fiery and in your face, but this isn't something to be afraid of.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, especially, yeah, there's nothing to be afraid of. And that's especially true if we're going into it with that emotional maturity where we're willing to take a look at the hard things, because this is going to bring to light probably some stuff that we may not want to see about ourselves. Because Aries does deal with your core personality, with your self-image, with your physical body, and especially here, this Mercury right next to those, that's your thought processes, and it will be in retrograde. And whenever anything is in retrograde, but especially Mercury, it's an invitation to rethink. I think all of us are going to just have to be surprised by what shows up during that 2-week portal between March 25th and April the 8th, between the lunar and solar eclipses, on what kind of little tidbits about our own selves we're going to have to rethink and reconsider. But it's nothing to be afraid of if we can find the courage within to face those things without fear. Like in my fear session at allyduzetclasses.com, it's a great session, and it was totally a butt kicker for me. It was a very difficult session for me, and when I think about it, even now, I'm like, oh, it was so hard to do. That was the hardest session to record. It was so hard. Um, and one thing that made it hard was that usually, like for hopelessness or grief, most people are willing to let go of their sad feelings because they don't want them. But when it comes to fear, that's not true. People love their fear in a way that they don't love their other emotions. And that was a little shocking. I mean, like, if you go do that session, you will see where I'm like, oh my gosh, like we're in love with the fear. Like, I cannot clear this until you want to clear it, you know? And a lot of people didn't want to let go of their fear. And what I find is that fear can be a really addictive emotion, and because it makes us feel safe, it makes us feel busy. It makes us feel like we're contributing something to the situation, where it's like, if I just like have some emotional turmoil here, then it's like I'm an active participant. When that's not even true. You're just as active a participant if you choose into faith and just trusting that like God has it under control. That is a more active participation in your trials than if you have to sit there and quiver and quake and feel panicked and anxious and afraid. Like, we get to choose, we get to choose out of fear, but we do have to say, you know what? I have been in love with my fear. I have been snuggling my fear. I've been nurturing it and feeding it. And today I have to say, no more food for you, fear. Like, I'm starving you out. Like, I am done playing into this dynamic. that might have been fun. It gives us a little emotional roller coaster, gives us a little something to ruminate about as we go about our day, makes us feel a little important because we're so special to have something to be afraid of. But like, we got to be done. We got to just say, you know what? This is BS and I'm done. I'm going to opt into faith and being chill and just enjoying my life um, instead of feeling so cool because we have something to be terrified about.
It's like getting out of a toxic relationship, which like I have a lot of experience with. And I just remember what it's making me think of is like a lot of times when you get out of the toxic relationship and you start actually moving into healthy mindset and dynamics with other people, it's boring because it's not triggering, it's not igniting all of those chemicals that we're really addicted to. I just will never forget, I was talking to this friend and she said that she left her boyfriend that she was madly in love with and they were living together and everything, and she just knew she had to end this relationship, but she was still in love with him. And so she flew from New York back to Denver to her childhood home, and like she said, she went in her room that she grew up in and she just laid in the bed and she just took her feet and kicked them against the wall as she laid on the bed because she was so mad that she had to leave this relationship that was she knew was hurting her, but she wasn't like fully ready, but she was ready enough to realize. And like it broke my brain because at the time I was like 25 years old and I didn't know you could leave something that you still wanted. And she got healthier and she was in a healthy marriage by the time that I had met her. And it was just such a powerful lesson of like what it is to really leave something that we only like maybe have a little bit of awareness isn't good for us, but fear is like that. And I actually think that it's everything is a type of what's going on within us. And we can see that in the natal chart too, that the wiring that we have within us is what we will create without us. And so as above so below, as within so without. And so we do that like if we're if we're still wanting to be seduced by fear internally, if we still love that relationship, then it's going to show up in other parts of our life. It might not be in a romantic relationship, but it could show up in other areas and dynamics that we get snared into. And until we really do that work of saying, you know what, fear, like this has been a fun ride and all, and like I'm grateful for the lessons and I'm choosing differently. And I'm making a different decision, even though I might be kicking and screaming about doing it at first, but I'm on my way to really breaking up with this being my go-to thought pattern.
Thank you so much. I love that. And yeah, when you do break up with fear, life is a little bit boring. As we like cut out the dramatic parts of our lives, what happens is your life becomes less dramatic. And if you're kind of addicted to the highs and lows of the roller coaster of interpersonal drama and intrapersonal drama, all of a sudden it's like a different world. I remember when I first started getting into all this stuff, and I was like working on myself around the clock, and I finally got to this point one day where I realized that I didn't have like that little monologue happening. I was just like doing my life. Like I was just walking and I'm like, oh, I am not even thinking. I'm like, I don't have any thoughts right now. I'm just like existing and enjoying my life. And it was kind of traumatic. I was like, oh no, but people have to, be buzzing about in their brains all the time. Like, what's wrong with me? Nothing is wrong with you. You just have to like do the inner work to be a place of stillness on the inside. And when you are a place of stillness on the inside, everything around you starts to reflect that because you yourself no longer tolerate the roller coaster. And when the roller coaster starts happening, either you shut it down before it really takes off, or you remove yourself into another situation.
Yeah.
So prepare yourself, my friends, as you're breaking up with your fears and your worries and all this stuff, and start shifting into a space of actual inner peace. It's going to be totally boring, and that's okay. You got to be emotionally prepared to be calm, which is actually a really big deal. It's harder than it sounds, but it's worth it.
It's so worth it. I'm smiling so big because I've had such a similar journey of like where it's like, oh, wait, something's got to be wrong. But it's so delicious once you like sink in and you're like, oh, this is the new normal. And it's like peaceful and it doesn't have to be go, go, go. And you're no longer like it's like you were saying, you thought that like the point of life was to be having all this mental busyness and to realize like, I don't have mental busyness. And not only am I still alive and okay, but like it's actually better to be like, oh, the goal that I thought was the goal is not the goal. Okay, well, what is the goal? Oh, the goal is to just exist and to be and to have feelings and to have a body and just to be like, how does the sun feel on my face? How does it feel to be happy? How does it feel to mourn? Like all of this is the point and not the chaos and the go and the drive and the I have to prove myself and I got to outrun anybody that could ever say anything negative about me, including myself. And that's just a recipe for disaster.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Well, guys, I hope what you've taken away from this is we don't have to be afraid. It is allowed to keep your eye on it, to be conscious about what's coming up, to make intelligent choices, and to remember to always connect with our creator and get our divine downloads straight from the source on what we personally need to do and change. But we really don't have to be in a fear zone. We don't have to be in terror zone. It is okay to just walk forward calmly and trusting and knowing that God has our best interest in mind. And so, of course, everything's going to work out for his favorite people in the whole world that are doing their best to listen to him. So, yeah, thank you so much for being here, Naomi. I'm going to put Naomi's links below. Go check her out. Be sure to do the foundational sessions at allyduzetclasses.com this week if you haven't done them. Even if you have done them, this is a great week to redo them as we head into the little fun roller coaster of this eclipse season. We're going to have a good time and no fear allowed. Okay, bye, guys. Thank you again, Naomi.